You might know him as Mayor Mark, a former CCM president, but a quick glance at his Twitter handle these days and you'll see he is ex-Mayor Mark. But he hasn't strayed far from public service, taking a job as Commissioner of the Department of Revenue Services. Boughton still plays a crucial role in local and state government. He joins the Municipal Voice today to talk about his role and, crucially, what municipalities stand to gain from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. We'd like to thank our sponsors at Gateway and Housatonic Community Colleges. The Municipal Voice is the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WNHH LP 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM's Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state-local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the consensus views of CCM or member municipal leaders. Commissioner Boughton, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's been almost 2 years now since you've taken on the commissioner position with the state. And, in the past, you've also been a state representative. But to a lot of us at CCM, certainly, and in the Danbury area, we know you first as Mayor Mark, former mayor of Danbury. From that long position, how near and dear to you is local government?
Well, look, local government is where the rubber meets the road, whatever, comparison you want to make that's out there. And it just is the place where you have to deliver services in an efficient manner. People are right there with you. It's not a macro approach to governing, it's a micro approach. So it's always near and dear to my heart. I think, mayor's offices and first selectman offices are really those are the bastions of innovation in government. I mean, you have very much a limited amount of money. You've got limitless problems, and you got to try to how to make everything fit and work to the best of your ability. So I miss it. There's no question about it, but it was time. 20 years is a long time, and then you elect the position, and I just kind of felt like it was good for the community to make a change. It was good for me to make a change. So this has been an amazing experience what I'm doing now, but I can't say I don't miss my last job. I do. I miss it, but I'm happy for the team that's in there, and they're doing a great job.
When deciding to take a new role with the state, what did you expect would help you from your time in Danbury?
Well, I learned to be a very good administrator in Danbury. And, I was just thinking about that this morning. And what people have to understand is that while you would like to use business principles in governing, that's good, right? Government is not a business. We don't make a profit. We don't have to make a profit. We got to break even. And business is not government, right? Those two intersections do happen from time to time, but generally speaking, the skills don't always translate back and forth. Sometimes they do. We get lucky with great governors and elected officials, but there's a learning curve there. So moving from the mayor's office to a commissioner's office, I was able to translate those skills of being an administrator in the mayor's office to being an administrator in the state. And having served in the state legislature, I knew a little bit more about how the state operates. I had run for governor, studied the state many times. So I got it. Our processes they're huge and they're long and they're complicated and convoluted. That may be a challenge. I think it's always a challenge, for anybody wanting to lead the state. But definitely I had the background experience to be able to do what I do. Now, man, I didn't know anything about, I didn't say know anything. I knew about taxes. I'm a very good numbers person, which is the weirdest thing because I was a terrible math student. But when I got to be mayor, I had an aptitude for it. I could tell you what's in every line item, how much is left, what's encumbered, what needs to be spent. It's just a weird thing. People would ask me after the meeting, like, oh yeah, I think we got 42,003 cents in that account. Let me see what I can do. So that translates, but our tax code, Title 12, is very complicated. And so there is a steep learning curve. And thank God for the senior staff at DRS. They are outstanding. They've been there a long time. They know their business. And they're not afraid to teach it. And so over the last 2 years, I've learned probably more than you want to know about our tax code and how our tax system operates.
Great. So it's been a kind of steep learning curve, but in those years, have there been moments where you kind of tapped into some of those old skills or pieces of knowledge from local leadership to kind of help you navigate some new territory?
Oh, all the time. Look, our middle management and our staff, they can get the front-facing piece of what we do out to our taxpayers. They can get them to fill out the documents and to report correctly and pay their liability. But being an administrator of 600 people is very similar to being a mayor of 714 employees. We have the very similar problems. Also, we had to manage through COVID, which is I was doing as mayor, so it was the same kind of skill set there. And HR function is very similar, and was able to translate all of the challenges and goods and wins and losses I've had in that arena in governing. So no question about it. I was really well prepared for the position. Honored to be chosen by Governor Lamont, who's just a terrific person to work for. You know, every moment I can think of dozens of times where I did do the old, well, when I was back at Danbury, let me tell you how we handle this kind of thing. So I think it's been good.
Of course, the majority of what we wanted to talk about with you today is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. In your role as commissioner, you've been educating local leaders around the state about the importance of these federal funds. Before we go into some specifics, what is your elevator pitch for the IIJA?
Right. So my job, first of all, the governor appointed me as a senior advisor to the governor on infrastructure back in November, once the president had signed the IIJA bill. That's the bipartisan infrastructure law. And basically the president had said, and he created an office of infrastructure in the White House, and he had said, look, we need a single point of entry in each state. You know, we don't want to be going to 4 different agencies, 5 different agencies. We need somebody that's going to liaison with us, with the stakeholders in the community, with your governor, to be able to move the ball here, because it is complicated. And there are over 400 programs and 19 different federal agencies impact many of our state agencies. So, you know, governor said, you're the guy, you got to make this thing move and help me disperse $6 billion over the next 5 years in infrastructure money. So my pitch to our mayors as I'm out there traveling the state, and the benefit, again, here's a scale where I was president of CCM. I know a lot of the mayors in the state and first select people. We build those relationships. I leverage those and sat down with them. I've got a PowerPoint with the city councils or with them individually, the economic development people, their engineers, or city planners, and talk about where the opportunity is. And so if I were to describe it at a macro kind of pitch, I would say that, you know, ARPA, which was in response to COVID, was about getting relief money, financial relief into people's hands right away, into the mayor's hands, the governor's hands right away. Spend it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought that the bipartisan infrastructure law was the same way. It's not. The bipartisan infrastructure law is about opportunity. It's about money's there, but you've got to put a program and plan together to be able to get it. That's a little tough for mayors and for selectmen because they're so busy every day on the day-to-day. And I know I did that job. So where our team comes into place, and this is where the governor was very wise. Other states had just one person, one guy, one gal, whatever, and no team beneath them. He gave me a mini budget to put together and hire up, staff up some people. Our team is there to help cities and towns fill out these documents, to alert them to opportunities for them, to point out where they probably can leverage some of the things that they're doing already and add in some federal money to it as well to get a program or project done. So I spent a lot of time doing that, and also with nonprofits, the tribes, as well as businesses. And I think businesses is one area where we need to leverage a little bit more because they are impacted by an inability to move goods and services around the state. So if we can make it easier for them to do their job, they'll hire more people, they'll pay more taxes, and our liability goes down. So we're working on that right now. But basically, the bipartisan infrastructure law is broken into 2 pieces. One is money that went directly into existing programs. So let's say DOT got $100 million to do a particular project. They now this year will get $140 million. So they get an extra about 40%. So that's what we call the plus up money. And that's already programmed. It's already being spent. You see that out there, by the way, being deployed right now. If you drive past a project with cones and our team out there building something, that's IDGA money that's being put to work. The exciting part is there's roughly $550 billion in competitive grants for cities and towns, for the states, for the counties, for the tribes. And it's all about putting the best application together, telling the best story and a narrative, and going out and getting that money. So that's where we're really working hard. We just had our first round of what we call Safe Streets for All. That's a grant that's only for cities and towns. Billions of dollars in there. We had about 20 applications so far. That's actually pretty good because remember that, budgeting was done back in March. Folks didn't know what to do. So we'll have even more next year as people get comfortable with the process. And we're going to see some grant awards in Connecticut out of that program. So it's been exciting.
Great. So it's kind of interesting. Like ARPA was kind of for the immediate, we got to fix this right now kind of stuff. And the infrastructure stuff is looking to invest in the future, which kind of actually ties in this year with our convention theme. We're doing getting back to the future of Connecticut, because it feels like, after 3 years where everyone's been kind of focused on COVID and like dealing with the emergencies and crises as they come up. Now we're kind of looking at the infrastructure stuff like this and kind of thinking about future again and planning, moving us forward, in things like electric vehicle charging, clean hydrogen, energy efficiency are all tied in part of this. Why is it important, and what should municipalities be thinking about in terms of the future of infrastructure?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, right? Because people think of infrastructure and they go, oh, roads and bridges, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it is so much more than and the president and Congress have put in, for example, Justice 40, which is the federal equity play in this program, is in every single guidance that's dropped, saying, hey, you got to consider underserved communities. You got to consider communities that haven't been served before. So there's this social benefit here that we're working on. In addition to that, there are stuff that you never thought would be infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who thought electric vehicle charging stations are infrastructure? Who thought broadband, delivering fast internet to all four corners of the state is a infrastructure play? But it is. Sustainable energy. And now, you talk to any mayor out there, when we lose power in Connecticut, our residents really go through a difficult time. I used to just internally, I would chuckle, but I would be empathetic because I didn't have power either, right? If we had a big storm come through. So usually the first day, it's a novelty. Yeah. Second day, it's a camp out.
Third day, everyone takes all the frozen stuff out and cooks all the meat. And
Third day of no power, people are on the front lawn of City Hall with pitchforks, and they want to chase you down and hang you for not having power, even though you have nothing to do with it. Yeah. So having a grid that can bounce back quickly from storms, and having a power grid that will stay up and running during storms, hardening our grid, really important. There's billions of dollars in this program to do that. And it's going to require a private-public partnership between us and the folks that own our grid, which is Eversource. So it's all this stuff that people never thought about, protecting, saving Long Island Sound. There's billions of dollars in there for water recovery and for sewer plants. So all this stuff that kind of goes in makes up this big ball of infrastructural programs and projects that people just never thought of. And that's what makes exciting about me. Now, I have to tell you, I do sit through some webinars and some live seminars about lack of water in Western U.S. And that's not our problem here. So, that's part of the job. But in general, I have to tell you, it's been pretty incredible to see the breadth and scope of this program. It's $1.3 trillion for the United States of America over the next 6 years.
That's pretty wild. You mentioned broadband, which is, of course, a huge part of the infrastructure plan in the future. As we saw kind of during COVID, especially, there's a digital divide often between rural and urban communities, issues kind of like last mile coverage and stuff like that. How transformational can a state with comprehensive and affordable broadband be for its citizens?
Oh, I think it's changed dramatically, as we've seen during COVID, the need for a stable system. And it's become it's no longer sort of a cool thing to have. It really is a utility, much like sewer and much like water, right? So we have to think of broadband that same way. That doesn't mean we can't let private industry play in that space and partner with them, but it does mean that the government has to take a role in making sure that everybody has access to high-speed internet. And we know that because some people are still working from home. Now the new plan here locally in Danbury is if we have a snow day, you're going to stay home, and the kids are going to do their lessons on the computer, so there's no more snow days. So you got to have internet to do that, and you got to have internet that works. And a lot of what we face are, particularly on the push on affordable housing, is multiple dwelling units, where if you have 20 units and they're all dropping into one what we call node, while you yourself may have good internet at 1 p.m. during the day, at night at 5 o'clock when everybody gets home, it drags, it slows down because everybody's streaming, everybody's doing Zoom calls, whatever. So these are all of the challenges that go with this. But it is critical for our economy. It's critical for our educational system, and it's critical for the way we work to ensure that we have the system up and running. Now, Connecticut will most likely see a hybrid setup. And what I mean by that is we have areas that have very good coverage. And right now, what we're doing is mapping. Where do we have it? In other words, to be able to serve an area we want to, we have to make sure they don't have it, right? So we have to know who has it, who doesn't. So we're mapping right now. And what you see is some areas are really well covered, some areas have no coverage. Some areas it just didn't make financial sense for a company to run fiber optic. And fiber optic is the future. That's the gold standard of where we want to get to. And I don't think we'll ever see every part of the state in fiber optic, but we will see a blend of wireless Wi-Fi in some rural areas. Actually, some people along the coast are using the Starlink from Elon Musk.
Interesting.
Then you're going to see the traditional, fiber optic on the pole into the house and into that last mile of delivery. So all that comes together. I see Connecticut as having a blended program, but all four corners of the state will have access to high-speed internet with a standard of, I hate to lay out a standard, but a standard that works efficiently, doesn't pixelate, allows the kids to do their homework and you to do a business call or respond to a doctor or anything like that.
You are listening to the Municipal Voice on WNHH 103.5 FM. Are there other areas of the IIJA that, from your perspective, seem crucial to the future of state that, haven't gotten as much press, maybe aren't as shiny and exciting to talk about as broadband or EV charging?
Well, being a former mayor, I'm big on wastewater treatment centers, and any mayor who runs one of those facilities or is a partner in that facility, those facilities will tell you that it's a huge expense. And every time there's a new regulation that comes out of the EPA, which is passed down to us, requires almost a complete retooling of the plant. Danbury has a John Oliver Memorial Sewer Plant, and we just finished a retooling that we spent about $80 million on, and that's to lower phosphorus and to lower nitrogen content in our output of our facility. Also, you're going to see that those standards, as they change, technology would change too. So you want to always add in the newest technology. In Danbury, one of the last things I did was put a system in place that took our fats, oils, and grease, referred to as FOG, that's stuff that comes from restaurants, and we now turn it into diesel fuel.
Oh, that's cool.
And we use that to fuel our fleet of bulldozers and trucks that work in the public works department, as well as sell some to cities and towns around us.
Oh, so it's actually in excess at this point from what you need. You're generating more of it than you actually use. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's a program that works, and it's been pretty cool. And those are the kinds of high tech stuff that I like to see a little bit more funding in from the feds. There is money there right now, but those rehabs and retrofits are important. Another area is lead pipes, right? We've all heard the story of Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi is going through this right now, where communities have extraordinary amount of lead pipes, especially in New England, because we've been here so long. Danbury, we have so many lead pipes. I wouldn't even, some areas they weren't even mapped. Like I didn't know there was a water there, because back in the 1930s and 40s and teens, when they put this stuff down, they didn't keep good records. So
they didn't say what they made the pipe out of in 1930.
Well, where it even was. It's like, it's over there on Smith Street. Right now, everything is very well documented through GIS systems and stuff like that. So you got to map where your lead pipes are, and then we run a replacement program as well. There, we have about $450 million to do that statewide over the next 5 years. We need about $4 billion to really redo the whole state. But this will get the worst of the worst. This will get those areas. And again, it's a mapping exercise. New London's done a phenomenal job. They'll get the first tranche of money because they've really done a great job at doing all their mapping. Have spent a significant amount of money on it, millions of dollars. So I think you'll see that area, which is not exciting. But lead pipe's critical for your health. You don't want to be drinking water out of a lead pipe. So those are the things that are happening out there that you probably didn't know, but will really make a big difference in the quality of life. And incidentally, it's no secret that New London is #1 in building permits as we say here for new housing, right? So
Yeah,
great city, one of my favorites in Connecticut. Danbury is my favorite, but I love
of
New
course.
London, other ones as well. But definitely a lot of potential there.
This is going to be a very big partnership at the state, state local partnerships here. And you've kind of already held some presentations for CCM, and you're going to be presenting again at the convention November 1st. What do you imagine as ideal state, regional, municipal partnership? How would Mayor Mark approach this, and how would Commissioner Boughton approach this?
Yeah, so well, as a mayor, I'd want to be heard, right?
Yeah.
And I'd have a couple of concerns about the program. One is the guidance is very complicated that comes out of the federal government. So let me just put it this way. They issued a guidebook. This is a guidebook for the whole program. That's 440 pages. And then, so we all read it. And then each program, when it drops, they have guidance for that. And that's usually 120, 130 pages. So put it this way. The guidance for the guidance is 440 pages long. So no mayor, no first select, smaller the town, less resources they have the time to sit there and even find out if they could qualify for these programs. So as mayor, I'd be frustrated with that. The other piece that I'd be frustrated with, and that's we're working on this, is that I don't have the local match. Every federal program is an 80-20, 90-10. They're requiring Danbury or Bethel or any Hartford to put up sometimes millions and millions of dollars. I didn't budget for that. I don't have that. Not just sitting around. We particularly at the municipal level, we operate on a really fine line. There are no big surpluses. And if they are, you don't get reelected. So every mayor keeps their, and I get it. I understand. So we're going to need some help in that area. And as mayor, I would be concerned about that. Flipping it over as commissioner, I have some thoughts on how to help people with that match. I've got some stuff up my sleeve, I think, for next legislative session that I'm hoping to build some support on. I can't really say much about it right now. And then finally, we're going to sit down with you and walk you through this guidance and try to help you fill out the board. We are using our Council of Governments as one of those tools. They have been fantastic and are led by a great executive committee, and they have been on board. They've adopted our process. We meet with them regularly. They do need resources. Other states have done that, have beefed up the grant writing capability. But Matt, it's hard to find grant writers. I mean, that's not an easy job, and you have to tell a story. You got to write a narrative. So there's things we got to work on. I feel good. And then lastly, I'll just tell you, hiring is a challenge as well. We have to staff up and scale up at the state. Some 200 new employees for DOT to be able to do this thing over the next 6 years. That's a lot of engineers. Deep needs staff. DPH needs staff. And all these private engineering firms and construction firms, they need workers and staff, as well as just folks out there in the construction industry. Everybody is going to need to scale up, and it's hard right now. It's hard finding help, and mayors will tell you that. I mean, they're pulling their hair out trying to find people to drive the plow trucks and things like that. And it's interesting because those jobs, people used to die to get those.
Clamor
jobs.
for get
I would have
a good government job.
People out the door all the time wanting to work at Parks and Rec, or to work at Public Works.
Not so much government benefits, not as much these days. And that's interesting. I know you've been talking about this issue with finding the people, and there were some other organizations even joined in with you and calling on Congress to help the state with this problem. Without the people, we can't do the projects.
Yeah, we've been working, and remember, so this program is a nationwide program. Every state is looking for engineers. Every state is looking for scientists and environmental people. So we're all competing. Now you're there and you're a graduate. I talked to a kid. I was on a plane a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to a kid from West Virginia who's starting his last year, and he's a civil engineer. I gave him my card. I said, when you're done, I'm gonna hire you. We're gonna hire you over at DOT. So come on up here and grab 4 of your friends while you're at it. But there are states that can hire very quickly. Texas comes to mind, some of the other ones. There are states that are adding bonuses or all kinds of signing things to people to get them to come to work for them because they know and they recognize it's going to be a challenge. We're doing similar kind of stuff in Connecticut. We're just getting all that wired up right now, but it's tough competing out there in the marketplace for these folks. So if you're young and you're thinking, geez, what am I going to do with my life? Go be a civil engineer. You will write your own ticket.
Yeah, the Infrastructure Act is making the infrastructure a booming business right now. There's jobs to
for
be had
years, and
for
they'll
years
do
to
that for
come.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because these are long-term projects that are going to be continuing
that's
to
it.
go on for a long time. That's a good thing for kids to keep in mind if they're trying to sign on a career right now. So one question we like to ask all of our guests is, are you feeling optimistic about the future of Connecticut? With all these funds, extra funds coming through from ARPA and IIJ, does Connecticut have what it takes to invest in our future at the local and state level?
I am. I've always been bullish on Connecticut because of the bones that we have, the great bones.
Yeah.
And I think that, we are uniquely positioned for success here. Um, I like the last 2 years on my tax side. I like the revenue
Mhm.
numbers. I like where we are in terms of our fiscal security, which is a big deal. Paying down our pensions. I know it's
Mhm.
boring. People are like, but it's a big deal. And I'm just going to
Yeah.
say, for the record, totally off topic here, but the new pension system that was
Mhm.
put in several years ago ain't like the old pension system. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, oh, I know why you went to the state. You're going to get this big pension. No, I'm not. I'm what's
Yeah.
called tier 4. It's going to take 10 years. I don't know if I'll be there for 10 years. So the chances of me getting a pension from the state are slim.
Yeah.
It's basically a defined contribution. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that we've made the tough choices, as much as negativity you hear about this stuff,
Mhm.
in getting our costs under control.
Yeah.
And as you go out in the out years, you'll see that the cost curve is bent dramatically because of that. You see a drop in what we're going to
Yeah.
owe. But paying that down now will allow us to borrow billions in the future at a much lower rate for our children and our grandchildren. So that's been something that's not sexy. You don't see it out there. People don't know about it, but it's
Yeah.
really, really important. And I watch that stuff because that's my business.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me feel good about where we are. I
Mhm.
do worry about energy costs. I think we've got work to do there, but I think the
Yeah.
governor, we talk about a lot, he is committed. Part of that is building out a stronger, more resilient grid, and that's what we're going to use the
Mhm.
ITRA money for. So DEEP is all over that, and working hard on those things. So we do have challenges. Not gonna say we don't.
Yeah.
Labor shortage is another one. Office of Workforce Strategies is working on that, and we are now bringing in our building and trades folks, as well as our VOTEC schools,
Mhm.
as well as our community colleges, to align everybody so that we can churn out these folks. And the big thing that the building and trades, again, this is not the most exciting thing in the world, is they're working on pre-apprentice programs. And I was like,
Mhm.
what's pre-apprentice? I mean, you have apprentice. Why would you need a
Yeah.
pre-apprentice? Well, pre-apprentice gives people a taste of a particular career field before they
Mhm.
fully commit to an apprenticeship program, which
Mhm.
is great. So, I bring up the Carpenters Union. They've got a beautiful facility where you can learn it. You can try it, see if you like
Yeah.
it. And if you like doing that kind of work, they'll roll you right into the apprenticeship program, which gives you about 2 years of full training. And by the way, in an apprenticeship program, you got textbooks. You got to read this
Mhm.
stuff, right? It's not just a goof where you got to go get coffee every day.
Yeah.
And eventually, you become a fully licensed union carpenter, and
Mhm.
you make good money, and you'll be in demand. So I feel hopeful
Mhm.
about that stuff, and I feel hopeful about the systems that we're starting to put in place to churn out workers to meet the 21st century. I couldn't end or finish up without giving a plug for what Danbury is doing. They're creating a
Mhm.
career academy, and this career academy will take 1,500 students, grades 6 through 12,
Okay.
and they will choose a career area that they're interested in. So maybe they're
Mhm.
interested in medicine, maybe they're interested in avionics, maybe they're interested in business, maybe they're interested in marketing, maybe they're interested in pharmaceuticals, and you will track that career through your curriculum all the way up until graduation.
Mhm.
So you'll be prepared. You'll be what's called ready to work, meaning that you understand that you got to be on time, you got to wear a tie, you got to dress
Yeah.
appropriately, whatever, and you'll be prepared for if you require further education, or maybe you just require a 1-year degree or a 2-year degree. So it's pretty exciting what they're
Yeah.
doing with this, and they're leveraging local businesses, places like Danbury Hospital, Danbury
Mhm.
Airport, the businesses that are around the airport, to all be partners in this program to turn out kids that are ready, that they can employ later
Yeah.
on. It's great. It's visionary, and I applaud them. And there's other programs springing up around the state like that. And
Mhm.
that's what we got to do. Doesn't mean you're not going to go to college. In our
Yep.
VOTEC schools, Henry Abbott Tech and Danbury, 80% of the kids there go to college.
Yep.
So you finish with a, degree, whatever your area of study was, you still go on to a 4-year degree. So good for you.
Well, it sounds like the future is pretty bright then. Like, the good programs going on all over Connecticut.
It is. We definitely are positioned here in Connecticut. I would also, I'm just going to say again, a little off topic, but cutting taxes, and I'm a fiscal conservative, was the way to go this year. We cut taxes by almost $700 million in a variety of areas. And these cuts were by the governor, were smart, they were judicious. And what happens is that they will pay dividends in the future because we won't have to roll back the tax cuts. You can go too far on that, and then you got to go back to the residents and you got to ask for more. And you're like, well, I just gave it now they got to give you more. And what happens is they lose faith in government. So it's important to be deliberative in that process and don't go overboard, because we know there are some headwinds in the next 3 to 4 years with the economy. We got to be ready. We got to be prepared. We've got to have a savings account to cover that. So I like where we are. I'm optimistic about our state. It's a great state, and this beautiful fall day, it's wonderful to be here.
You're here. Well, Commissioner Boughton, thank you so much for speaking with us today. We really appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Fan of CCM. Love it. You guys are awesome. And again, if you don't know about CCM, if you're just listening to this for the first time, go to their website. Tons of information. And there's programs that even, us regular people can go and listen to. So
that's right.
As a past president, thank you to the staff at CCM. You guys are awesome. We appreciate all you do.
We'd like to thank our guest, Mark Boughton. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Gateway Community College and Housatonic Community College. Learn more at gatewayct.edu and housatonic.edu. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM and WNHH 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer, Christopher Gilson is our producer, Terry Draws is on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like, and watch out for our CCM chat series on our YouTube page. CCM's annual convention returns Tuesday, November 1st at the Mohegan Sun Convention Center. This year's convention will be capped off by Connecticut's final 2022 gubernatorial debate. Learn more at ccm-ct.org.